So you're dealing with some status of Hashem himself, but it's a part of Hashem himself who's busy thinking of his will. And then you have the aspect of Hashem who's before he even thought of this will. Not only has the will not come out, he hasn't even arisen in his mind, this will, and that is something which is therefore completely beyond any association with the will whatsoever. Now what is this will? The will is the mitzvahs. So we said, therefore you have also like sort of three levels of accessing divine energy. If you do a mitzvah, you access the will, which is the tremendous thing to access. It's basically the glory of Hashem coming out and extending itself. And by doing a mitzvah, you sort of summon that light and commune with him. But when you do tshuva, which is above all the other mitzvahs, right? We said that you are able to access the Baal Haratzon. You go to a place which is beyond the will of Hashem. You go to He Himself, but it's still an aspect of He Himself, who is He who has will. Right? So you're beyond the actual expression of the will, the issuance of the will, right? You're not dealing with the fact that he gave you an order and you're busy with the order. You're dealing with the command. No, you're dealing with the commander. But you're still dealing with him as a commander, not as just he himself, who is in theory loftier than his own command. And that's called tshuva. So you actually can reach higher than all the other mitzvahs, but it's still connected to the mitzvahs in some way. Or you can go to Tamlichuni Aleichem, right? That Hashem says there's one unique day where you can actually access the essence of Hashem himself through this unique mitzvah of crowning Hashem as king, where you go beyond Hashem as he is associated with the mitzvahs in any way whatsoever, even before they are as the Baal Haratzon, the owner of this will. And therefore we said in the word Rosh, which is the Rosh Hashanah, because Lashon HaKodesh works in such a way where in the name of something, it expresses the fullness of a thing. We see that on Rosh Hashanah, you actually have all three of these levels of Hashem available to connect to. You can connect to Hashem on the level of mitzvah. And how do you do that? We'll explain in a second. You can connect to Hashem on the level of Baal Haratzon, and you can connect to Hashem on the level of the essence. And all of this is also associated with the word and the functionality of the head. And the level where the head is totally removed from the body and it's like its own independent, elevated structure. This is the idea of the essence of Hashem. And therefore the Rosh Hashanah, this is something which is higher than the Tshuva even aspect of Rosh Hashanah, where we said that even though Rosh Hashanah is one of the 10 days of Tshuva, it's also excluded from being one of the 10 days because it has a new and higher quality, which is the head in and of itself. But then Rosh Hashanah is also the day, one of the 10 days of Tshuva, which means there's an aspect of reaching to the level of tshuva. And how does the Rosh experience a quality which is likened to tshuva? So we said it's the head, which is at least has all the other limbs in it. There's the head in its own unique qualities, which is above all the other limbs. But then there's the head as the holder of all the other limbs inside of your head. Like we said, if you hit your head feels it. All the functionality of what's going on in your body, it starts off in your head. Like we said that the nervous system is really just sort of an expression of the brain, which is all your nerves and everything you have is in your head. So you're still dealing with the head, which is head and shoulders above the rest, but it's the head as it is containing and therefore giving like some yachas and connection with the body. So this is like tshuva of Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah has tshuva in it, just like the head is above but contains all the other limbs.
It seems like the rays of the sun also this nervous system?
The rays that come out are like the nervous system in the body. But the rays of the sun inside the sun, this is like this connection with the Baal Haratzon. And that's the notion of tshuva in Rosh Hashanah. That's why the Rosh has this quality of containing all the other limbs inside of it. And then there's the hachlatas tovos of Rosh Hashanah, which is that you're basically saying to Hashem, I am going to be occupied with your will. I'm all about you being king, and I'm doing all the tshuva I can do. But when it comes to everything that's going to happen this year, I'm taking on mitzvahs, tefillin, tzitzis, avos Yisrael, yiras Hashem, emunas elokus, everything. I'm in on the will. So but what is the head's association with the rest of the body? The head is still above the body, but it conducts the body. In other words, even after the limbs come out, they're being controlled by the head, which means your hachlatas tovos on actual performance of mitzvahs on Rosh Hashanah is going to be an energizing, guiding force for all the actual particular mitzvahs that you do all through the year, because it's a head which is sort of responsible for guiding them and being their manhig, their director. So therefore you have all three levels in the word Rosh. That's where it starts. So first he explained it inside of the concept of Rosh Hashanah. Now he's moved us on to the word Rosh and how all of those three concepts are inside of the head. And now chapter 4. Everyone got it? Al Rosh Hashanah Ne'emar mitzvahs hayom b'shofar. Now we're going to go and do this whole thing all again in the mitzvah of the day, which is the shofar. Right? So Rosh Hashanah has a unique mitzvah. The Fia Amor, according to what we said, move on, it's understood. Shloshas ha'avodos of Rosh Hashanah, these 3 levels of Rosh Hashanah, which are Tamlichuni Aleichem, Tshuva, and fulfillment of mitzvahs, which we said are all in Rosh Hashanah. Yeshnam, what's that?
Also in this Seder Dafka.
Yeah, that's right. Yeshnam b'mitzvahs hayom. All those 3 things are also inside of the unique mitzvah of that day, which is the shofar. Turning the page. Okay, this is a kind of a monster of a footnote.
14?
Yeah. Let's do it. We're not afraid. Not yet. Okay, so the mitzvah of the day is with shofar, and he explains over here. Of the Alter Rebbe. There's a mimer of the Alter Rebbe, which we now understand deeper after the parentheses. Why do you have to say on Rosh Hashanah what's called Malchios, Zichronos, V'Shofros? First of all, someone translate that and tell me what it is.
It's interesting. First, it's like the tree.
Somebody translate that and tell me what it is. Malchios, Zichronos, V'Shofros.
It's over to like the kingship or shofar.
Okay, so you define the words, something called kingship, something called memory or remembrance, something called shofar. What are the psuki, malchios, psukim of this nature? Okay, just so everyone knows, when you get into the davening of Rosh Hashanah, you're going to see something unique in the davening of Rosh Hashanah, which is you suddenly spring into this situation where you're going to say 10 different verses from the Torah. This is Musaf particularly. Which mention Hashem as a king. You all of a sudden you just start quoting verses in the middle of the Musaf Shemona Esrei, right? And you make 10 verses which mention Hashem as king, right? Yeah. Then you're going to have 10 more verses that you mention in the second part where it mentions the word Zichronos, or we're going to remember Hashem, or Hashem remembers us. 10 different. It's a very long Shemona Esrei. You mention 10 whole verses of Him being remembered, or us being remembered, and then you have a whole other section of the Shemona Esrei and Musaf where you mention 10 different verses that mention the word shofar. Some of them seemingly have nothing to do with Rosh Hashanah, right? And each time we mention this set of 10, we actually stop in the middle of our Shemona Esrei and hear the shofar, right? It's a whole. So he's asking over there, why do you need to mention all these verses of Malchios, Zichronos, and Shofros in the middle of the davening? And he says, Ki kadesh bechinas kiyum ledavar. Because if you want to have established something that it stays, bechinas chosam, which is it's called a seal, right? When you have a seal on a letter, it's like that's it. It can't be changed. It's come down and it's solid. There's no more monkeying around with this letter. It's been sealed, right? If you want to have something fulfilled and sealed, ein ze ela al pi Torah dafka. The only way to do it is if Torah is involved. You have to bring literally the force of the words of Torah to sort of bring something down and make it stay. It has a quality of eternality. Seemingly this is not understood. Why then don't we have to bring, every time you want to put on tefillin is maybe not the best example, but every time you want to do a mitzvah, I'm going to go sending away the mother bird somewhere. Why don't I have to stop and say 10 verses on the mother bird? Because if I want this mitzvah to really have a hold in this world, it has to be done on Torah. Why only on this mitzvah of shofar and mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah? If I wanted to sort of stay and be held down and be sealed in this world, I have to mention 10 verses of this, this, and this. He said it should be every mitzvah seemingly. Rak alam shacham shofar. Only that which the shofar brings down, do you have to sort of seal it with these verses of Torah? That's the question. Va'inyan tzorek hachosam hu rak kesham shachahim b'chines l'mayla gam mishtal shalus. Right? Because when do you have to seal something to make it stay? It's when what you're drawing down into this world is legamri, beyond any level of what this world can handle. In other words, if you try and bring the essence of Hashem into this world, the world's going to sort of have it and it's going to slip right away because such a thing is no business in this world. The world can't hold it. Right? So it's a sign that you need to seal this thing and hold it because you're drawing something down which is so beyond the Seder Ishtalshlus, even beyond the source of the Seder Ishtalshlus. Right? If you're going to go those three levels, let's say mitzvahs is somehow connected with the Ishtalshlus, the tshuva is even above the Ishtalshlus, but connected with the Ishtalshlus, and the Atzmos is beyond. Okay, so he says this is because of the level of light that we're dealing with. Right? I.e., what I just said, tshuva is above the ishtalshlus, and how much more so the tamlichuni, the avoda of drawing the essence, is above the ishtalshlus. It's still in the footnote. Now we can understand what the Alter Rebbe says over there. Anu roim shelo yismach balamaymer bilti sheavi raya berura l'dvarav be'eza pasuk min haTorah. We find also by the Zohar, right? Where if you're going to read the Zohar, you're not just reading mystical concepts alone. Every time he brings a mystical concept, he says Shnei Amar, right? As it says in the Torah, and he shows you this mystical concept, which is such deep sort of metaphysical reality that's being brought into the Zohar. But he specifically brings a verse where you can see how that thing is connected to a particular verse, right? Some verse from the Torah or some verse from the Navi, right? Why? Because when you're dealing with the Zohar, you're dealing with grabbing onto panemius of godliness, which is higher than the world, and it won't stick around. You can't hold it in this world unless you have a piece of Torah to sort of like hammer it down and seal it in. Because if he didn't bring it with a conjunction with a verse, it would have never stuck here. We would have, all the teachings of the Rashbi would have come and left, because there's no seal to hold them into this world. Because the secrets of the Torah, they're at the level of which is above the shtalshlus. So the same thing is true with all the power of the. In other words, so what he's saying is we have the mitzvah of the day. Let's connect the footnote to where we just were. The mitzvah of the day is shofar, and we're going to see soon how all those three levels of Rosh Hashanah, which are also in the name Rosh Hashanah, they're all in the mitzvah of the day, which is shofar. But what about the other mitzvah of the day, which is to mention verses of Torah, of shofros, zichros, malchios, zichros, and shofros? That's also, why do we need that to be attached to this mitzvah? Because the shofar is so high, the mitzvah of the shofar sort of wouldn't work in what it's trying to accomplish unless it was held down with these words. Fine. The psukim?
Yeah.
I think it is a mitzvah deraisa. I have to look. I don't remember off the top of my head. I should know, especially so close to Rosh Hashanah. I'm megali my lack of preparation here. Uh-oh.
It's the best preparation.
Well, now I have the ability to do tshuva, and maybe even beyond. Okay, so what's the deal with the mitzvah of shofar? So everything, all these three levels of the shofar, which we're saying are very spiritual, mystical ideas. You're connecting with the will, and above the will, and the atzmus. But he's saying all of these things are in the shofar, and like everything in Pnimis Torah, you're going to be able to see it in the laws of nigla. In other words, in the simple laws of the shofar, you're going to be able to see all these three levels of the shofar. The Rambam in Hilchas Tshuva Omer begins with the Rambam in Hilchas Tshuva, the laws of Tshuva. He says, Af al pisha tekiya shofar b'Rosh Hashanah gezeres hakasuv remez yesh bo chulei v'chazru b'tshuva. So he says, even though the blowing of the shofar is what we call a gezeres hakasuv. What's a gezeres hakasuv?
There's a straight pasuk for it.
What is a gezeres hakasuv? No, but what is a gezeres hakasuv?
Gezerah that's written.
So a gezeres hakasuv means the verse has decreed, which means there's no reason for this. In other words, you don't blow the shofar because what? Because what? You're going to take a horn and blow it. What is it? Because I said so. That's why. That's what he's saying. There's a decree. Don't start making reasons for it. That's what the Rambam is saying. And there's many things like that. They're called gezeres hakasuv. The Torah says that's why we do it. Don't look for reasons. However, the Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva, which is going to come up as an important point later, where he writes this, he says that even though it's a gezeres hakasuv, which means don't try and look for reasons, there is a hint in it. It's hinting to you something. Don't say that this is why you blow the shofar, because there's no reason why you blow the shofar. But if you look, there's a hint. What's the hint? It makes a loud noise, right? That's the hint. And it's telling you, wake up, right? And do tshuva. So there's like sort of a secret reason behind why we blow the shofar. It's in order to make you do tshuva. And this is written where? In the laws of tshuva, right? Even though it's really the essential mitzvahs beyond reason, there is a little reason hidden inside. We have to understand, Madua kavar Rambam minyan zeh shel tekiyas shofar behilchas tshuva v'lo behilchas shofar. A question, which is a very strong question. The Rebbe also brings this question and even in my Marim, and he says, why did the Rambam write this in the laws of tshuva and not in the laws of shofar? The Rambam is a very organized man. He literally put the entire Torah into an organization for the first time in human history. And he did not sort of just throw laws wherever he feels like them. There is an entire section of the Rambam called the laws of the shofar, right? And it is specifically not in those laws where it says that the reason for blowing the shofar is to arouse you to tshuva. He puts this in the laws of tshuva, which is kind of a random place to start talking about a shofar, right? There's a lot of laws of tshuva as well. Did anyone ever tell you that while you're busy learning the laws of tshuva, you know, Hashem, I'm feeling like tshuva today, maybe grab a shofar and blow? No, there's not like part of the laws of tshuva to blow a shofar. So if you're busy like telling me the laws of tshuva, tell me the laws of tshuva. How do I do tshuva? Why are you suddenly going to remind me that there's another mitzvah called a shofar that you blow on Rosh Hashanah, and in that mitzvah, there's a hint to do tshuva. It's sort of wrongly placed, right? Amnam, meduber kan odos tshuva. Yes, we're talking about tshuva, right? In other words, the law, it's referring to the hint of tshuva in a shofar. So there's a discussion of tshuva. But since their tshuva is merely a reason to blow a shofar, and it's a hidden hint why the shofar bears this thing called tshuva, haya lo likvoa behilchas shofar. Really, he should have put it in the laws of shofar. It pertains to the shofar, not to tshuva, right? That when you're blowing a shofar, it has a little reminder to do tshuva. Not while you're busy doing tshuva, think of a shofar. Yeah. You don't have to do that. It's pashut in the wrong halacha, right? That's what the Rebbe points out. Of course, nothing's by accident, and you see the brilliance of the Rambam over here in a second. Right? Look at this. It says, and if you'll think, well, that's a lot of detailing you're doing over there. Look at this. The Rambam says elsewhere, quote, right? Harambam nosen tam l'tevila b'mikvah. There's at the laws of mikvah, when you get to the end, you find something very interesting. He says almost an exact same language about the shofar. He says, he says the mikvah, going to a mikvah, is not something that has anything to do with rationality. Why? When you become tamei, you jump in water. Maybe I should roll around in the mud. Maybe I should do jumping jacks. This tuma is a completely spiritual thing. It's not dirty and clean. Yeah. It has to do with touching some dead animal. Why, when you go into water, does that go away? So he says, there's no reason. This is another perfect example of what we call it gezeras hakasu. God says, magic wand, this makes tuma go away. But look what he says. Afa pikain, even though it's a gezeras hakasu, almost the exact language, remez yesh b'davar. There's a hint in it. And what's the hint? Litar nafshu mitumas nefashos. It purifies you from the tuma of ideas, of soul, disorientation. Deus raus, bad qualities, bad I'm going to say the word opinions, but it's not merely opinions, it's sort of like bad midos, essentially, right? Bad ways of thinking, yes. And what is the hint? So just like you put a tummy thing into water, it comes out pure. It's basically saying wash away and drown out all your negative and poor thinking. B'mei hadas tahor. What is the water? What is water compared to all throughout the Torah? Torah, knowledge, right? Water is like Torah. So you, with your crazy thoughts in your head, you're going to sink you into a mikveh, and you'll clean out your mind. You need to go in what's called the das tahor, the pure knowledge. And so even though it's a gezeras hakasuv, but it's coming to tell you a little secret hint that there's a kind of a secret reason in going into a mikveh. It cleans out your bad ideas. Aval b'chol zos, where do we see this law about mikveh? Exactly where it belongs, in the laws of mikveh, not in the laws of tshuva. What does that have to do with tshuva? Even though it's telling you, basically clean yourself out and do tshuva, change yourself, we don't find this in the laws of tshuva, we find this in the laws of mikveh.
So you could do it every day, so it would be more pertaining to the laws of tshuva.
Theoretically.
Yeah.
I mean, you could blow a shofar every day if you want.
Yeah.
It's anyway not telling you about the mitzvah of shofar. It's in the laws of tshuva. It's just telling you the inside of a shofar, it wakes you up. I'll blow a shofar every day. It's not, this business with the mikvah is not in the laws of tshuva. Where is it? The laws of mikvah, where it belongs. Shekenu remez v'tam lamikvah, because it's a hint and a reason for mikvah. Where else would it go? So this is one question we had. Why is the tshuva of the shofar not written in the laws of shofar, but rather the laws of tshuva? And again, if you'll say it's kind of random, why are you nitpicking? No, because there's a very good reason. Almost the exact same thing is said about the mikvah, and it's found in the laws of mikvah, not in the laws of tshuva. Fine. Gam tzrich lahavi. We also have to understand that we live in a world with finite time. Okay, we have 6 minutes, right? We also have to understand. Gemara Netmar. In the Gemara it says, beautiful Gemara. Our entire sikh has been based on this Gemara, that there's this unique quality of Rosh Hashanah where you can connect with the essence of Hashem by crowning Hashem king. And what does it say? It says, say before me these verses of kingship in order to crown me over you as a king. And then it says, how? How do you do it? B'shofar. That somehow there's another thing inside this shofar, besides all the laws of shofar and the fact that it can make you do tshuva. It has this thing where if you want to crown Hashem king, which is this unique quality that you can reach uniquely on Rosh Hashanah, capturing the essence of Hashem, you don't just say, Hashem, I'm your servant, be my God, and say a few verses of Malchus. You have to blow a shofar. The shofar is also the avoda which accesses the essence of Hashem quality of Rosh Hashanah. Haresha ali dei shofar nifal gam tamlichuni. This is a big chiddush, right? That this unique thing that you can do on Rosh Hashanah is accomplished by the shofar. We didn't hear that until now. We just heard that there's a way to tap into the essence of Hashem, and it's accepting Hashem's kingship on you. The Gemara says, how? With a shofar.
The Malchuyos itself is doing with the shofar, he says.
Yes, this highest and third level. Medua im kain ein, and here's the question now that we have. Why doesn't the Rambam bring this in the laws of shofar, this whole Indian of Tamlichuni? This also belongs in the laws of shofar. So he brought something which belongs in the laws of shofar and he put it somewhere else. And something which is in the Gemara, which is clearly of the most important things that the shofar accomplishes, which is that you cannot make Hashem your king and accept his kingship upon you, which is the number one avoda of the day, unless you have a shofar. And here I'm telling you all the laws of shofar, and I just conveniently leave that out. It doesn't say anything about it. It tells you how big the shofar has to be, and if it can be covered with gold and blah, blah. It doesn't tell you what it does, which is anoint Hashem as your king. Why? It's missing. So La'ora Amor, La'el, according to what we said before, regarding these three levels of the Rosh, which is Rosh Hashanah, which we know these are these three levels of the power of the day. Emshar Leva'er, we can explain, Ki Gam B'Shofar Yeshnam Shloshen Yanim. Even in the shofar, it has these three things. The name Rosh, and in the midst of the day, it already has inside of it three different things that it accomplishes in the very midst of the shofar. One, mitzvahs tekiah shofar. I hate we're going to get stuck in the middle of this whole conversation, but we'll just do as much as we can. So first of all, you have three levels, right? The will, that which is above the will but connected to the will, and that which is entirely above. Just like the three levels of the head, right? So here you have, in the mitzvah of the shofar, you have the actual mitzvah of tekiah shofar, im kol prati dineha. In other words, like, if it has to be on the right side of your mouth, and you have to make breaks at certain times, and you have to blow a trua sounds like this, and a tekiah sounds like this, and many, many, many laws, right? It's called the actual will of Hashem. This is how you accomplish the will. This is what the Shulchan Aruch is there for. It tells you how to connect to, not to tshuva, not to the essence. The Shulchan Aruch tells you how to grab on and access the will. This is what a mitzvah is. This is Hashem's will. As Zos Monei Rambam bein Taryag mitzvahs v'kov behilchos shofar. So all that, how you actually do the mitzvah shofar, it's all nicely as one of the 613 mitzvahs and found right where it's supposed to be in the laws of shofar. But then you have this other level, which is called the level of tshuva, which is inside of the shofar, but only in what we call a remez. What does Rambam say? He says, even though the mitzvah of shofar is completely beyond comprehension, there's a hint inside of it. Shulamayla min mitzvahs. And what do we say? that this notion of tshuva, of course, is higher than the other mitzvahs. We've been talking about that for the last few days. And therefore, the tshuva of the shofar, he didn't put it in the laws of shofar, because the laws of shofar are dealing with the actual will of Hashem. The hidden tshuva in the shofar is beyond the mitzvahs. It's part of a mitzvah of tshuva, so therefore he sidesteps that and puts it over into the laws of tshuva. A whole different level. But you see how exact the Rambam is. This is like basically like a revelation of outing the Rambam on his like astounding level of perfection, that he takes this level of tshuva. It can't be put in the mitzvahs of shofar because tshuva is above all the other mitzvahs. And therefore it's a remez. It's not really in the mitzvah. It's just hinted to in the mitzvah of tshuva, and not in the laws of shofar. Shekain behilchas shofar, in the laws of shofar, who dan rak odos mitzvahs of shofar. The laws of the shofar in the halachas of shofar are dealing with the actual mitzvah, which is the will, not that which is above the will. Ve'elu atshuva hi lamayl mitzvahs. Tshuva is above mitzvahs. Vehi rak meruzemes b'shofar. It's only hinted to in the shofar. And we'll see, I guess we're going to have to stop here.
Yeah, what about Malchuyos? Is different from mitzvah from Malchuyos?
Malchuyos is just a seal of what the shofar does.
That's a seal.
That's what we said.
It's the third level, though. Getting to the Bala, to the... Before Bala.
No, so we're going to get to that as far as its association with the shofar, yeah. Here, let's pass.
so nice. Der Rebbe du, der Geber sind du, jeder du. Okay, lass me verbringen. Verbringen mit der Geber, verbringen mit der Rebbe. Avade in Avade is der Ei bist du. Verbringen mit der Geber, verbringen mit der Rebbe. Avade in Avade is der Ei bist du. Avade. Is roen away your reiso, the kitchen very khadi. Is roen away your reiso, the kitchen very khadi. Is roen away your reiso, the kitchen very khadi. Is roen away your reiso, the kitchen very khadi. Fabrik, fabrik, oh jedelig fabrik, 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 oh jedelig fabrik, 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 oh jedelig fabrik, 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 oh jedelig fabrik. Fabringen met de geuren, fabringen met de rebben. Avade in avade, is de aaie bister doel. Fabringen met de geuren, fabringen met de rebben. Avade in avade, is de aaie bister doel. Is er no een way, oh je reist zo. De kitje wil ik gadi. Is er no een way, oh je reist zo. De kitje wil ik gadi. Is er no een way, oh je reist zo. De kitje wil ik gadi. Is er no een way, oh je reist zo. De kitje wil ik gadi. Fabrek, fabrek. Fabrik. Wadden in a wadden fabrik. In a wadden fabrik. Fabrik. Ay, 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 ay.